welcome to my booktube channel. I'm Cass, and today I'm bringing you a nice, cozy, rainy day reading wrap-up for the month of August. Hopefully my microphone is picking up some of the rain noises because I just love the rain, and it's just so cozy, and I am so depressed. I have work, and this is the only video I have time to film. I won't have time to read, so hopefully tonight it'll still be raining, for I can get some nice rainy day reading in. But let's just dive right in. I have 15 books that I read this month, and I am quite proud of myself because last month I had kind of a rough reading month and I manifested. I said, I'm manifesting a really good reading month. And I think I did that pretty well. The first book I read was part of a 24-hour readathon I did with my best friend Lexi, and I managed to read 3 books during that time, or 2 books. I think I read 2 books and then finished, I think it was like a 3-day thing. But Finale was an easy 5-star read. I quickly fell in love with Stephanie Garber's writing style and the Caraval universe itself. This was such a great series finale, and I just wanted more, but I am getting more, but in the form of the prequel series about one of the characters in this book series, Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then I believe The Ballad of Never After comes out later in September, which I am super excited about. But yes, Stephanie Garber's writing style is just so whimsical, and the universe is so fun to be in. Lots of twists, turns, character portrayals, certain things happen in a way that you wouldn't expect, and I just live for it the entire book. And then the next book I picked up during the 24-hour readathon period, I think I read half of this during it, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This also was a 5-star read. I am a little bit late to the Red, White, and Royal Blue hype because I believe this was trending on TikTok last year, but I just didn't pick it up. And then my best friend Lexi, who I did the 24-hour readathon with, told me I had to read this book. Basically, I made a joke saying that I would pick it up if she bought me the book. And then she bought me the book, so I picked it up and I loved it. I loved all the characters, and I loved the romance between the 2 characters, and the enemies to lovers was so cute. And there were so many pieces of dialogue that I put tabs on that just made me laugh out loud, and all the characters are just iconic, and I just love Casey McQuiston's writing, especially for her dialogue and her banter scenes. So good. Next, I read The Stern Chase by John Flanagan, which is book 9 in the Brother Band Chronicles, which is a companion series to my favorite series, which is Ranged Apprentice. And I did give this book 5 stars. But I was quite disappointed in it. The book starts off, I think I was mad at like page 28 for this revelation between 2 characters that made no sense. Like, John Flanagan really just said, relationship. And this isn't exactly a romance book in the slightest. It is an adventure fiction. So the romance doesn't really affect the book that much. But the fact that there was no real foreshadowing between these 2 characters, and then suddenly the book opens up with 2 characters basically getting married, and it makes no sense. So that is my biggest gripe. And then my other gripe is I don't want to spoil it because this is 9 books into the series, so it's hard to be very vague about it, but the entire plot line of what occurs could have been made into such a bigger deal than it was. So this book was only around, it was under 300 pages, and the adventure they go on could have easily been stretched into like 3 more books because it was such a big deal what happened, and it could have literally started a whole war, and I would have loved to see how the characters could have resolved that instead of getting this nice quick wrap-up ending. So I did give it 5 stars, but that's because I literally can't stand to rank John Flanagan's writing any lower than 5 stars, but I was a little bit disappointed. Book 6 in the series was the last solid book in my opinion. 7, 8, and 9 have not been as good, but I'm hoping book 10 picks it up and we get the old John Flanagan writing style, because all these books are just wrapping up too quickly for what I prefer. The next book I read I don't really want to talk about, and that is 50 Shades of Grey, and I did 1-star it because, listen, I have no problem with people reading smut, go off. But if you're gonna read smut, you gotta read good smut, and do not tell me that this book was good. The only redeemable quality of this book was the emails back and forth between Anna and Gray, whose name what is his name? I don't even know his name, Gray. I don't know. For some reason, the only name popping in my head is Tobias, and that is Divergent. So I don't know what's going on in my brain. But I started. I don't really want to talk about it too much, but it was toxic as hell, first of all. The smut wasn't even good, second of all. And third of all, what in the fuck was that ending? Like, I get that she wanted to write more books, and so to end on this big cliffhanger, but it just happened in like 20 pages, and don't even get me started on Anna's stupid ass inner goddess. Every time I heard a description of what her inner goddess was doing, I wanted to just lose it. So, we're moving on. Luckily, after I finished 50 Shades, I did pick up a phenomenal book to kind of make myself feel better, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This book, I want to give like big old trigger warnings. This book is so brutal, and I actually have a whole vlog coming out later where I talk about my thoughts more in depth on this, but holy crap, was this book unexpected. I really enjoyed their time at Singard, which is the military academy that Rin trained at, but we kind of flew through that fairly quickly. Like, the timeline wasn't exactly linear. It was very like, we're speeding through these first few years, and then now there's a full-out war. I did 5-star it. I don't know if I mentioned that. Lots of annotations. I do love Rin as a main character, and I am excited to pick up the next book, which is The Dragon Republic, and figure out where they're going with this. It's very interesting how some characters are connecting, and I don't understand it completely, but I'm hoping that the second book will kind of bring some clarity to that. The next book I picked up, I saw it at the library, grabbed it, and then I stood there like reading a few pages, and then I was like 10 pages in and decided to just sit down, and I read the entire thing in one sitting at the library before it closed. And that was K-Pop Confidential by Stephen Lee. And I 3-starred this book. And it's interesting, okay? If you can get past the unrealistic storyline of how she gets into being a K-pop idol, and you can get over like the really shitty romance aspect of it, it's actually a fascinating read about the K-pop industry. In fact, I mostly enjoyed this book because of how they described like the training in the K-pop industry and how exploitative it is, and how they're literally, it's just so, it's not great. It's not great how these K-pop trainees are trained in this book, and I'm sure that this book follows some truth. For example, characters are literally weighed in front of all their other trainees, and their weight is said out loud, and they're literally fat shamed for being like slightly over the needed weight. And just seeing how the training system was working was fascinating. However, if you're gonna nitpick this book and go in with high expectations, you're not gonna enjoy it. Honestly, I went in with super duper low expectations. I mean, look at the cover art. I don't want to talk about it, but I did 3-star it, and I just had fun reading it, and sometimes that's all a book can provide you, is just some entertainment. And then I did end up picking up the second book, which is K-Pop Revolution, which is even more unrealistic than the first book in terms of plot. But again, it was so fascinating to see how manipulative and toxic the entire K-pop industry is, or at least in this case, this company. Also, it's very interesting because they did mesh real groups with their fake group. It was an interesting narrative, and I did give this book 4 stars because I actually really enjoyed this one. So judge me if you want, but if you go in with really low expectations and you hide the cover in public because I hate it, yeah, I did actually kind of enjoy this one, even with all the unrealistic things that occur in this book. Next, we have Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This was the Wyverns and Words book club pick for August, and I did wish I enjoyed this book more than I did. I did give it a 3.75. The pacing was very roller coastery, so I was very intrigued in the beginning, and then it kind of slowed down, and then they arrived at the city of their destination. I was very excited, and then they were there for a while, and I was just bored, and then things were happening and things weren't happening. And so my interest also was, you know, peaked and then it waned away, and so it was hard to keep my attention span. I think if this book was a little bit shorter, it is 530 pages. I think if like 100 pages were cut out, the pacing would have been so much better, but that isn't to say it wasn't good. Laini Taylor's writing style is phenomenal, and the ending definitely intrigued me enough to pick up the next book, which I did, and that is Muse of Nightmares. Now, I did give this book 4 stars. I actually enjoyed it more than I did Strange the Dreamer. I really, really enjoyed the new character perspectives we got in this book. It was a little jarring at first because it did the thing where the second book starts and there's just new characters that you haven't even heard an inkling about, and suddenly you're in their perspective and expect to just know what's going on. But I actually really enjoyed their perspectives, and I wish we got more of them. And I was very excited when everything kind of came together at the end, and all the hints that have been dropped finally came to fruition. So yes, I did give this book 4 stars. Laini Taylor's writing is phenomenal. So if you like very lyrical type of writing, very poetic sounding, Laini Taylor is a phenomenal writer. I cannot deny that. Next, I wanted something light and fluffy after reading Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares back to back. So I picked up Ali Hazelwood's new book, Love on the Brain, which is probably the quickest I've ever picked up a new release, which is honestly shocking because I don't typically do that. But I gave this book 4 stars, but the more I think about it, I think I would rate it honestly less than 4 stars, but we're just going to stick with my original gut feeling. This book, when compared to The Love Hypothesis, you might as well not even read both because they are very similar, and the characters are very cookie cutter copy and paste to the characters in The Love Hypothesis, and I think The Love Hypothesis executed the situations much better. This one, I was just bored a lot of the time. It's much more STEM heavy, so they're building a helmet and a lot more goes on in the workplace. I don't know, I was really bored for the first like 100 pages, and it's only 300 pages, so if I'm bored for like a third of the book, things aren't looking good. Also, my question is, why is a gun involved in this book? That really took me out. I also picked up The Emperor of Naihoja by John Flanagan. This was the 10th book in the Ranger's Apprentice series, which again I'm not going to really discuss too in depth because it is book 10 in the series and a reread. I don't know how many rereads I'm on. I think 7 or 8. Honestly, could be more, could be less, but I really enjoyed this reread. I always do. I read it a lot slower than I typically do, but The Emperor of Naihoja, the entire storyline is all wrapped up. So it's like a standalone within the series, and it's over 400 pages, about 430 pages. So it's a decent chunk. The ending of this book is absolutely iconic. I love it with my heart and soul. And I really enjoyed the war scenes and the battle scenes that go down in this book. And yeah, solid read as per usual. It is a little bit slow, especially compared to his other books, but I love book 10 so much. And then the last 3 books I read in literally one day, and I will have a whole reading vlog come out. And that is the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. Now, I was a firm Holly Black hater, okay? I slandered Miss Holly Black, and I have to formally apologize to Miss Holly Black for the slander because I definitely adored this series. It's not exactly a new favorite, but I gave The Cruel Prince 5 stars. Now, if you're reading this series for romance, you're gonna be disappointed and you're gonna hate it. But I loved the politics in this book and the universe, and just everything at play was so good. And book 1 executed it so well. Oh my goodness, I just absolutely fell in love. Now, the romance I gave no shits about. Carden in this book is an absolute ass, and yeah, I don't even want to talk about it, but I really liked Jude as a main character. Next is The Wicked King, which I gave 3.5. I was mostly bored throughout this book, and I wish things were done a little bit differently. Carden grows on Jude, but again, I didn't really care about the romance. I wanted more of the politics, but I just didn't care about the... I just read this and I can't even remember what they're called. Like the unsea? The people under the sea that were like threatening things. I didn't really care for their storyline that much, so it was a 3.5. And then The Queen of Nothing, I did give 4 stars. I thought it was really cute how it wrapped up. I did like the ending, and the politics in this book were a little bit better than the second one, but the first one still is phenomenal, and I wish that the rest of the book was still on that level. But I did give it a 4 stars, and yeah, I can't believe I read all 3 in one day, but it was definitely a binge-worthy series because I wanted to know what was going to happen. And now I know what happens in the Folk of the Air series, so that's exciting. So I guess thank you, Katie, for bullying me into reading those books. The peer pressure really got to me, and I apologize for being wrong about Miss Holly Black. I do apologize. But those are the 15 books I read. Hopefully you enjoyed this wrap-up. Let me know what y'all read this month. And if you want to leave your TBR down below as well, I'd love to hear your reading plans. I hope this was a nice, cozy little rainy day wrap-up for you. And if you want to see more bookish content, please do consider subscribing and like the video if you liked it. And I really hope to see you in the next one. Toodles!